election here at the University of Pretoria, and we've gathered a couple of candidates here, all vying for your vote, in order to have their final say in exactly why you should vote for them in tomorrow's SRC election. Good afternoon, I'm your host, and welcome to the SRC election debate for the portfolio SRC Secretary, powered by the Elections Management and Consulting Agency of Africa. The Secretary, if you did not know, ensures the smooth operation and administration of the SRC. The Secretary is also responsible for maintaining accurate records of all SRC meetings, including minutes and attendance. Allow me to introduce our candidates for this portfolio. Furthest from me, we have Thabo Matsumela. Next to him, we have Malibongwe Kunene. Next to Malibongwe, we have Itumeleng Mohale. And next to Itumeleng, we have Makoliso. Thank you so much for taking time to join us for this SRC debate. Before we get started, a few ground rules that you should take note of so that you're comfortable throughout this debate. Please ensure that you're respectful at all times, as no discrimination will be tolerated throughout this debate. A question will be posed to each and every one of you, of which you'll be given an opportunity to answer that question, and your fellow candidates can then rebut some of the things that you have said and alternatively add their input as well. For time reasons, please let's try to keep our arguments as concise as possible, and let's try our best not to interrupt one another as well, as we'll all be given the opportunity to speak. This sounds pretty self-explanatory, right? Cool, let's get started. I think I'm going to start with Elovuyo, since you're the closest to me. You know, effective communication is quite essential in terms of ensuring that this portfolio is adequately, adhered to, or the secretary is adequately able to do their job. How would you, as the SRC Secretary, optimize internal and external communication channels to ensure that all student concerns are accurately recorded, escalated, and resolutions are efficiently communicated back to students?
Thank you for your mic. Good afternoon to my fellow contestants here. Thank you for your question. I would build a strong system where every student concern is logged, tracked, and followed up. Internally, concerns would be assigned to the right SRC member within deadlines. Externally, would keep students updated through weekly bulletins and forums, WhatsApp broadcast, and social media. Most importantly, would close the feedback loop by going back to the students with the outcome. And when misinformation arises, we'd use official SRC platforms as a fact check corner. This way, students always know their voice counts and where to find the truth.
I'm going to ask you to move the mic to Itumeleng. Itumeleng, you've heard some of the solutions that have now been posed by your fellow candidate. Do you think that these are viable enough in terms of allowing for effective communications to students?
Yeah, I think he has touched on quite some few, if not most of the points that I also had. But I'll just also add by saying that transparency is the heart of this portfolio. If a student's concern is escalated, they must also be aware of what is happening. They must also be informed about the progress and outcome of the issue at hand. We must always go back to the students to inform them about anything that we as SRC are doing. Our job is to ensure that communication is proper, and I believe we also spoke about miscommunication, of which I think miscommunication comes about or being misinformed comes about miscommunication. If we as SRC lacks transparency and accountability, I think the students are going to suffer with knowing. They're not going to know what we think or what is happening. If we are failing, we must go back to the students. If we are winning, we must go back to the students. Hence, I'm saying communication needs to be very viable through some of the platforms that Mr. Olivio said. So in closing, I'd like to say I want students to know that your voice will always be heard, and your voice has been heard, and we will always do everything we can to make sure that you know what we are doing about whatever is happening within the SRC. Thank you.
Now, Malibongo, I see you nodding quite a bit. Do you agree with some of the solutions that have been posed by your fellow candidates, or do you think that a lot more needs to be done instead to allow for, efficient communication to be provided to students?
I do agree with what the candidates have said, though I do think that we have to do more regarding those things that they have touched on. Like, for example, in internal communication, to avoid miscommunication with the students internally as like the SRC, we need to make sure that we as the SRC have an escalation like process. We know who reports to who, we know whose role is this, and also like choosing like a reporting structure that is suitable for the time that you're in is also very important, with also adapting to the changing times and the suitability of the students. You cannot have like a set stone reporting structure. It must be always changing as students' lives are always changing. And externally, I do agree with what Mr. Elovoyo said with communication with like WhatsApp broadcastings and also we also have like module tab on the ClickUp page of the university. I think that would also be very, very helpful when it comes to communicating official statements to the students. And also with the feedback, the follow-ups that should be made regarding students' concerns, ideas, and everything should be actually taken very seriously. And yeah, I think that's all.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Tabo. Tabo, you've heard a lot of what your fellow candidates have said. The big highlight there has to be communication, and another one has to be transparency. One can argue that students get a lot of that communication and transparency when it comes to things like student forums, which over the past while haven't been going well. How is that something that you plan to address if you had to be a secretary of the SRC?
Thank you very much. Revolutionary greetings to everyone and the viewers as well. So I would like to just disagree with my colleagues here who we are contesting the portfolio together. So I hear them, they're speaking about concerns of students, but they're not touching in terms of groundwork, because more than anything, I believe that we must first strengthen the systems from the faculty level, resident secretaries, because that's where our people are. So gathering concerns of students, they must start there with those leaders who they see on a daily basis. For example, at the residents, they see the leadership there. So through them, as the SRC, we should actually, I believe that we should build relationships to gather the concerns of the students. Then thereafter, we then take it to the management if us as the SRC are failing to either to respond to them. But I want to emphasize something which is very important here. One thing with my experience in UP is the management of UP. Actually, when the management oppresses students, that's where consent comes. So management oppress students at an expense of those students. What do I mean about this? So
No, you can continue. We'll let Malibongo speak after you.
okay, I was saying that management oppress students at an expense of students. So whenever students have issues, you must know that somewhere, somehow, the management is benefiting, but students are crying. And it is not going to be simple for the management to then agree to give back to the students. I'll give a practical example. Let's speak about buses in Groenkloof. For the longest time, final years in Groenkloof were provided buses to go to practicals. But now, the institution no longer provides those buses. They are saying that those buses are expensive. So you can imagine to say, no, the university now wants to keep that amount of money at the expense of students. So, and at those campuses like Groenkloof, there's the leadership there. So I believe that we must strengthen those communication channels to say the leadership must then report to the SRC. Then, as the SRC, we take it further. And number one, if the management does not respond to us, that's what we will have to implement stage 2. But I'll further elaborate on that further as we go in our debate. I think we can give a chance to say something.
Yeah, Malibongo, you seem to have issues with some of what Thabo has had to say. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, he touched on like students speaking to the management in their residencies. First of all, not all students stay in residences. The SRC is here for everyone. Students who stayed home should also be able to have like an escalation process, not that it should just be students who live in residencies, and the management of like those residences should communicate with the SRC. With the SRC, it's not viable for the students who do not live in residencies. So I don't think it might work to a certain extent for students who live in residences, but it's not viable for like the whole student body. That's all I wanted to say.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Thabo, do you have something to add or response?
Oh yes, she's touching on a very valid point to say not all students stay in residencies. There I have to agree with you fully so. But then when I was giving my examples, it didn't mean that I was excluding them. Yes, the students who stay at home, which by the way we can say they are day students, they came to camp, they travel from home to campus. Those students, they have then direct communication to us. But those who stay in residences, they have their leadership there. Their leadership is the one who holds the responsibility to then escalate those issues to us. But these students, they then have the privilege, or they are allowed to then come to us directly.
To counter that, I think that's a bit discriminatory, that some students are allowed direct contact with the SRC and some students are not allowed direct contact with the SRC. It's really giving, I don't know, it's not like viable still, because like the SRC stands for every student. Communication with residence management is okay, and residence management are not in charge of every problem that students may encounter. It probably finances and accommodation. That would be all that can be communicated to the SRC by the residence management. Other problems like school problems, academics, and although we have those people in residences, they are in charge of like the residencies. But as a UP student, you need to have an option to contact the SRC directly instead of like going through this long process of going to your res academics officer, then the res academics officer contacts the SRC academics officer. It's like very strenuous to the students, whereby they might need like instant help. It's very strenuous, and I don't think it's very helpful.
Itumila, you've had your hand up for quite a bit. You've heard what your fellow candidates, Thabo as well as Malibonge, have had to say on this topic. What do you make of it?
Well, I would say I agree with Comrade Matimela here to say that groundwork is very important. We need to be on the ground to understand what the ground has for us. So we need to be with the students. We need to visit different campuses to ensure that we understand what the students deal with. And also, as part of what I was planning to do as a secretary, is to build a network of secretaries, which means it's also in support of what you were saying, which means we know that key committees, they have secretaries. We know that faculty houses, they have key committees. We know that day houses, they have key committees. We have sub-councils, we have residences, and everyone. That is to ensure that we keep communication with them so that we can understand what is happening with the people that they are responsible for. Because I believe that you can never do it alone. there's no way I can be in 100 places at the same time. Hence why we need to delegate ourselves to visit these campuses. We need to also work hand in hand with those different faculties. Sub-councils, they include many societies also, which have people under them or who are working with them. So that means that for those people that I cannot reach, probably someone wants to say something but cannot directly say it to me, then I can hear it from one of the secretary of the sub-council, or one of the society leader, or like that. Because in my meaning I am because you are. No man is an island. You cannot exist in isolation. Hence, it's important to collaborate with everyone to ensure that we cover as much grounds as we can. That is my take.
I'm going to allow you
Thank
to
you.
hand the mic back over to Thabo to just close us off on this topic. And then afterwards, I'm going to pose the next question to you, Malibongwe. Thabo?
Thank you very much. Comrade Moshati here, I think he heard me correct. And Malibongwe here, I don't think she did understand me. So what I was emphasizing, just to add on Moshati, is those comrades or those leaders who are appointed there at the residencies or faculty levels, there are powers invested in them to assist these students. University of Pretoria has over 50,000 students, registered students. But now what Malibongwe wants to impose is those students, they must come and stand in front of me, all of them, which is also a different point. Yes, they might come, I'm going to assist them, but there are people who have powers invested in them to assist these students immediately. Because now, if 50 students come to me now, which means there's going to be a queue. So rather, those students be assisted there at that time. Mine is to oversee these leaders to say, are you assisting these people? Just to do a follow-up on every matter. And as I've also mentioned in my manifesto, to say, there's going to be a statistic report of those issues which these leaders have assisted students, or the cases that were reported. Yeah, mine is just to oversee and assist those who come to me at that time. But the most important thing is, as leaders, it's important that we strengthen this network and this relationship and these systems, because we are all leaders. At the end of the day, I think what she's saying is the person who is at the residence or at the faculty level, their job is to bring issues to me while they have the power to assist. That cannot be correct. Thank you.
We're going to have to move quite quickly. Malibongwe, I asked a question a bit earlier on, and unfortunately it wasn't answered, and hopefully you can answer this. SRC forums have unfortunately become a playground. They've unfortunately become a place of unseriousness and a place where work is not being done, something that students have unfortunately complained about, and as a result of that, that's become the mandate of the SRC Secretary. How would you ensure that SRC forums do exactly what they're supposed to, and that following those meetings you're able to efficiently disseminate information, or rather distribute information back to students?
Thank you for that question. As I have mentioned before, that students' lives are forever changing, so do the reporting structures that we have to use should change as the student lives change. Like Mr. Elovuyo once mentioned, that we can make use of official WhatsApp channels where SRC communications are made. Almost everyone has WhatsApp, and you do know that now when you have communicated this information to the students, they are able to get back to you or whoever that they need help from with their pleas or ideas with everything.
Are you complete with are you finished with your point, or
No,
no, you can continue, and then we'll move on to the next candidates.
Okay. As you have mentioned that the forums are now not like very viable for students, and students have been making complaints. I also like mentioned, or I have not mentioned that point, but having open access to official SRC documentations, like via the ClickUp module tab of the SRC, of which is closed. It has not been used ever since. I've had that module tab for like forever, but it has not been there. It's only opened when it's like SRC elections. But like the communications that needs to be made through the year that should be sent to those tabs are not like used. For example, I was on the UPSRC page, I think not a few days, on Friday, and I saw communication that it was like a communication about like boycotting Choose UP Day, and should that be communicated? Would have that been communicated to like officially? Then I think most of the students would have seen it, but like it was just a single place of communication, and that's not very helpful.
Tabo, we're going to get to you in a few, but let's move the mic to Dumeleng and then to Evoyo. Dumeleng?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I feel like she hasn't answered the question fully, because when we talk of a student forum, we're talking of a platform of accountability. It's a very important platform where students engage their leaders with whom they have elected to go into those positions. So I believe we need to strengthen the student forum through my deputy, I don't know who here, yeah, so that we have those quarterly forums planned and that are planned in advance and communicated in advance and promoted across all campuses, across all social media platforms, to say that on this day we're going to meet and we're going to hold our leaders accountable, so that this setting is also beforehand. Students do also know that it's not a platform where you're going to come to just bash your leaders and what, but rather promote constructive criticism, to say that we mandated you to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but that hasn't been done. Then the leader can account to say, no, I haven't been able to do this because of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And the students can also be given an opportunity to provide solutions, provide alternatives as to what you can do in that portfolio. I'll just lose it there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Evoyo, you've heard what your fellow candidates have had to say. Maybe you can answer the question. How do we actually fix this problem? Because the SRC forum is a big issue. It's a big crisis. And as a result of that, a lot of students don't have faith in the SRC because of the collapse of SRC forums.
Thank you for that question. First of all, I would like to, when you first posed the question to Malibongwe, you said that the SRC forum has become a playground, and I think that's a problematic statement to make. It's not a playground. It's where we hold leaders accountable, and the issue that I think we should be looking at is why there hasn't been forum. And Mr. Thabo sits in the current SRC, and I think that's the only problematic thing, is that there hasn't been forum sitting, because forum is very important for accountability purposes. Then, going back to the issue of forums collapsing, the only way I can answer that is that individuals go there and seek political point scoring, and that should not be the case when you go into forum. You are there to hold you accountable. Yes, I might not, if you're an SRC member, not all questions are going to be nice, and it's your duty to answer them in the most respectful manner. And also the attendees themselves, they can't just blame the SRC people for the forums collapsing. Why are they behaving in that manner when they enter forum? Or are we at the stage where we have to find another accountable holding mechanism if forum is not working? But honestly, it's used for political point scoring.
I'm going to ask you to pass the mic to Thabo. Thabo, you've had your hand up for quite a while. Political point scoring, questions that are being asked that aren't are unfortunately unanswered at the SRC forum. How do we actually address this issue, and what will you be doing, assuming that you assume the role of SRC Secretary?
Thank you very much. What I wanted to say earlier, it actually slipped my mind, but I wanted to say to Ms. Malibongo here, to say she must take it into confidence and cognizant that this is a public platform. She must not lie. So what really has transpired is she would know that the MMC of 2025 had resigned. I think his name is Depen. So she must not say that the communication channels of the SRC only become active now towards the elections. There was no one to carry that portfolio. I believe that she could have done a research. By the way, on the issue of student forum, it's not a playground. I would like to second Comrade Oluvuyo there to say no. That's a very serious platform. So those forums, when they collapsed, it was because of political, but I won't touch on it. But, and you'll know that the second quarter student forum had not said. On that one, I would like to say that.
So, but before you continue, can I just probe you and Vuyo on something? The fact that forum does not sit, and the fact that, you know, forum collapses, it leads students to believe that forum isn't a serious place. And so then some students do believe that forum is a joke. What's your take on that?
No, forum is not a joke. So they collapse. You must first analyze, why are they collapsing? You must first analyze. That is the question that we must ask ourselves, to say, why are they collapsing? I believe that some students, they go there with an agenda to collapse it. That one I can attest. That they go there with an agenda to collapse it. That's why they collapse. Because some people, they go there to seek political relevance. And we're not there for that. We're there to listen to the leaders on where are they, how far are they with their plan of actions, so forth and so forth. So I think I'll just close it on the issue of forums. But I want to take it into confidence that forums are going to sit. It was just the issue of test weeks and the calendar. That's why we couldn't have forums, just to clear the sky on that. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we are short for time. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you each an opportunity to have your final say. To basically plead your case for the last time to students who will get to vote for you tomorrow in the SRC election. You're going to have about a minute or so to basically just state your case. Why should students vote for you in tomorrow's SRC election? I think we'll start with you, Thabo, because you had the mic last, and then we'll pass the mic forward.
Thank you very much. Most importantly, I want students to vote for me because as a member of the 2025 SRC, I believe that I've come across so many things, but most importantly is what I want to do is I want to start by implementing what we call the SRC autonomy. So the SRC autonomy is the one that is going to lead us, for us to stop being what you call, because now we're classified as prefects of UP as the SRC, because the SRC, you must first then report to the management, then come back and fight the very same management. How effective that could it be? It can't be effective. But most importantly is, as the SRC, the current secretary, or let me not touch on that because I might be touching nerves, but the office of secretary currently is not effective. And through me, I aim to implement measures like information does not reach the disabled people, because the university, I believe that it's for everyone. Disabled people, visual impaired, hearing. So we need a secretary who is going to fight for those things, inclusivity and diversity. And I also believe to say, as an SRC secretary, you must be able to tell the students on what had transpired in the long meetings of the management. We had so many meetings with the management in this current year, and students don't even know about it. And that brings the name of the SRC into disrepute, and even students, they start to even undermine the SRC, because nothing is above communication. If there is no communication, then there is nothing. Students are going to think that the SRC is not working, and so forth and so forth. So, lastly, closing on it, I would like to say that students, when they vote, they must also take it into confidence of those who stood for them when it was hard. They must remember those who were there for them when they needed them. And they must not just vote because of they see pretty faces or beautiful t-shirts. No. They must know who fights for them. And students know their leaders. Thank you.
Malebongo, why should students vote for you in tomorrow's SRC election?
Thank you. I think I have to agree with Mr. Matsimela here by saying that nothing is about communication. I believe that students should vote for me because, like, I have presented innovation through my manifestos and in this debate, and I believe students should have a chance to have their voices heard. They should allow space for new leadership to take space, not just because they have known what had transpired in the past, of which most of the things that have happened in the past have been viable in the past, but they're not now. So we should now open space for like new leadership and new minds to take control of the SRC. And students should vote for what they believe in. And I don't believe in better the devil that you know than the one that you don't know. You don't know what the new brain is bringing in. So it's better to take the risk than stay with what you have and not have any change at all. Thank you.
Itumela, why should students vote for you in tomorrow's SRC election?
I would start by saying I also agree with them with regards to communication. Communication is very key for the Office of Secretary. Hence, it can't be that students will have to find out from videos or through manifesto that the student forum will be held at some point in time which we don't know, without proper communication. That must never find expression in our or in my tenure as a secretary. And to also acknowledge that this office is not about titles, but it's about service. The secretary is the engine of communication, transparency, and accountability. As a secretary, I think I'll just say to the voters that vote for me because I'll be that secretary that will operate like a heart. As this secretary position is, it works like a heart. It provides each and every part of the body with oxygenated blood to ensure that it functions, because if there's lack of oxygen here, the leg won't work. So it visits each and every portfolio to ensure that it's doing what it's supposed to do, and taking away the deoxygenated blood to ensuring that it goes out. So that means the failures and everything that our fellow SRC members will be doing, we will be working together with them to correct them. that is the kind of SRC secretary that is needed. I believe that SRC must be for the students, by the students, and with the students, and that means that students need to be involved in everything through communication. And I can say that what is most important is that I have a heart to ensure that no student's voice is left behind, and no concern will be lost in translation, and every resolution finds its way back to the students we serve. Vote for me, and let us build a transparent, accountable, and united Student Representative Council that the University of Pretoria deserves. Amandla.
And lastly, Elavuya, why should students vote for you as SRC Secretary tomorrow?
All right. The Secretary's office, as mentioned by my fellow candidates here, is the engine of the SRC, and you have the responsibility to inform that students know everything that's happening in SRC meetings and activity. And currently, we don't know what's happening in the SRC. We don't know, and I promise that just because an MMC resigned doesn't justify the fact that we are not receiving communication. You will receive timeless communication. Within 2 days, minutes will be published. Communication will be transparent, and we will be held accountable. And with, as mentioned in my manifesto, my previous experience in student leadership makes me equipped with the necessary skills to succeed in this portfolio. And lastly, I assure you that Forum will sit under my tenure. Forum will sit, and it won't collapse. And yeah, that's basically it. And I wish my fellow candidates all the best starting from tomorrow.
Thabo Malibongo Itumeleng and Elavuya, thank you so much for taking time to join us in this SRC debate. A reminder that these are your candidates for the position of SRC Secretary, and they all are vying for your vote tomorrow, where you will have your final say in deciding who decides to represent you as a student body in tomorrow's SRC election.